Hey, Steve.
What's up?
You're live.
We have Steve from Steve's Snaketuary today.
That's right. We're going to try his hot sauces and learn more about venomous snakes that we didn't know before, because here in Alberta, can't keep any. So
I know nothing.
All I know is a lot of people die from snake bites around the world, but that's mostly just because they can't get treatment. But in the U.S., it's pretty easy to get anti-venoms and stuff like that. Here in Canada, it's a little bit of a different story because we can't keep venomous snakes.
On this half of the country?
Pretty much. Anything from Manitoba this way, it's illegal.
No, in Manitoba you can have venomous, depending on municipality.
Oh, that's correct.
You can do almost whatever you want in Manitoba, depending on municipality.
As long as you don't live in Winnipeg, you're fine.
Yeah, basically. As long as you don't live in Winnipeg, you don't have to deal with too many exotic pet bylaws.
Which Winnipeg has all of them.
Yes. But then there's also the other really weird thing about Canadian venomous keeping is we don't have any real regulations.
Yeah, there's no real regulations. I'm not sure. Oh.
We lost Steve.
I'm sure he'll join us back. But yeah, there's no real regulations. We don't have venom-proof boxes and stuff like any manufacturers. People could be buying them from the States. That might be something that people are doing, but there's no real regulation like Florida has or anywhere else that I'm aware of in the States. So,
all right, got it now.
You should all know. Okay.
Kiana had her computer volume off and it was picking it up on the microphone. She's real technologically advanced.
Technologically devanced.
Yeah. So we were talking. We were telling people about some of the stuff that was going on in here in Canada. There's no real venomous regulations for keepers and stuff. That I'm aware of, because Ontario has a lot of municipal laws where you can't keep venomous. Manitoba is kind of free range unless you're in Winnipeg. Quebec, I'm not too familiar with anything that they have in place.
No, I can't read their laws.
It's in French.
I'm a bad Canadian. I'm not
little French. I took 8 years of French. Maybe you should send this to me. Maybe I can translate a little bit of it.
I know tabernac, and that's about it. So.
I know some fruits and vegetables because that's all I retained from grade 6 French immersion school.
I didn't even take any French classes, because it wasn't required.
Yeah, my parents moved to a Richie Rich neighborhood, and the school at the end of my block was a French immersion school, and I was in grade 6 and had never spoken a lick of French in my life. I did not do well there. No, it was a bad time. But I know what a bonbon is, and pamplemousse.
I have a couple of guys at work that speak French, and I'm I have no idea what the fuck you guys are talking about. I'm a terrible Canadian because I don't speak French. Because it's our second language.
But we encounter so many more languages out here.
Yeah,
so.
we're pretty multicultural languages.
It's kind of weird, here in Louisiana, we have people that speak French in South Louisiana, but the French that they speak is not French. So it's
Creole, isn't it?
Yeah. It's so I took 8 years of French in school. And so when I've been down south and people are starting to talk, you can hear the accents, but it's kind of I have no idea what you're saying.
That's the Quebec people here. They made up their own version of French.
Quebec French.
Yeah,
it's not actual French.
Yeah, it's Quebecois French and not French. So I think no matter what region you take languages to, they'll always adapt a little bit. Yeah, definitely.
Right.
Cultural influences, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I thought that was it was kind of weird. I don't know how many people saw it, but I had posted the picture, promoting this deal, and
I saw that.
Cajuns and Canadians.
I thought that was great.
So, and technically though, I'm not technically Cajun. Cajun is more southern Louisiana, but I thought it was pretty funny. I'm in the north part of Louisiana.
Hilarious.
Well, us Canadians wouldn't have known any better if you hadn't told us.
Yeah. Most people think we're all made out of maple syrup anyway, so.
Right.
Which reminds me, I still got to send maple syrup down to Louisiana. I got to pick up those maple suckers to send to James. I still haven't done that.
Have you ever had maple syrup on a stick?
Yeah.
Like in the snow?
Yeah, they pour it in the snow.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Maple syrup on a stick in the snow?
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So you take like real like fresh Canadian maple syrup, which comes in like a tin can. You dump it in the snow, right? In like a big like this, right? And then you take a stick and you let the syrup get a bit tacky, but then you roll the stick in it, and it just like rolls it up on the stick, and it gets hot. Like I don't know, it's just good.
Don't eat the yellow snow. Eat the maple syrup snow.
Yeah, eat the brown snow.
I guess whenever I head to Canada, then I need to try that. Then, right?
Yeah, like I don't know. I think it's just like something we all did as kids, or like it's -30 out and you walk to 7-Eleven for a Slurpee.
Yeah, because us Canadians do weird things.
Yeah. What is my neighbor doing with that chainsaw? Can you hear that?
Is that what I hear?
Yes!
The chainsaw.
My neighbors have been going buck wild the last couple days. I don't know what they're doing.
So, what got you started with Steve Snaketuary?
Man, it started when I was a little kid, man. I've always been into snakes. I used to always catch the little rough earth snakes. My cousin and I used to call them ground snakes. We didn't know any better. But we used to catch the little rough earth snakes all the time. And you guys are going to have to forgive me. I got my cat over here. But I used to keep those in a cage. Of course, my parents hated it. And, I'd just catch piles of those. I didn't know what they ate or anything. I would just catch piles of them, put them all in one big cage. Then, of course, we saw a big speckled king snake, and we didn't know any better. My dad killed it. I kept the jar of that. I kept the body of that king snake in a jar for like weeks, and it got real rancid. So I had to throw that thing out. And then when my parents moved out to the sort of kind of country, saw my first copperhead, saw my first rat snake. It just kind of a fascination kind of turned into, it just grew more and more and more and more. And then once I got married, my wife let me buy a little corn snake. Then one turned to 2 to 4, 4 to 8. Just kind of blew up after that. Yeah. And then once people find out you're into snakes, then you start hearing all the horror stories of, oh, you like snakes? Well, let me tell you about the one that I killed while I was hunting. And oh, I saw this big one in my backyard, so I went and killed it. And so that I was kind of like, look, you know me, call me. If somebody sees a snake, call me, kind of thing. And yeah, that just kind of grew. Me being a firefighter and advanced EMT, I don't know how it happened, but just somehow I hooked up with 911 dispatch. So now a lot of firefighters and police officers have my information. So, and a lot of times the dispatch, depending on who's working, they'll call me instead of calling somebody else. I ended up hooking up with the local animal control. So a lot of times, they're too busy with dogs and cats, so they end up calling me for the snake calls. And it just kind of exploded. And so it just kind of turned into, hey, instead of everybody killing snakes, call me. I'll be a sanctuary for the snakes. So that's how I came up with the Snaketuary. It's a sanctuary for snakes. And
I like the name.
Yeah, so what we do is if somebody's got one in their house or their business, we go get it out so they don't have to deal with it, because people just freak out all the time.
Yeah.
And we do educational presentations. Depending on the presentation, if we do one for kids, we talk more about the pet side of it and keeping them as pets. And I bring a couple of local ones. But if I'm doing one for like paramedics or EMTs or first responders, I go into more of the snake bites. Had a first aid treatment of snake bites, snake venom. I go into more detailed information for that. So we kind of tailor our presentations depending on who we're talking to. So It's been a wild journey so far, very wild journey, and now you guys have me in Canada, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Yeah, like here in Alberta, we have the prairie rattlesnake, so we only have one venomous species, and that's kind of more south. So like Lethbridge, Drumheller, Medicine Hat, the kind of more dry, deserty areas. And there's not too many encounters with them. There's some in Lethbridge, which they do have companies that do put in snake fencing in, so snakes don't get into the yard because people are concerned about rattlesnakes, which they have the right. They don't want to disturb them, and they don't want to be disturbed by them. So if they can try to keep them out of the yard as much as possible, that's great. And that deters people from trying to relocate them all the time. But there's a guy out there, he does rattlesnake relocations. He was featured on an episode of Scaled where they built him that backpack.
Oh, nice. Is he also the one that did the rattlesnake research trip?
No, that's a different guy. We're actually trying to get back into contact with him because he's doing population counts on the rattlesnakes. So before I joined the TERRA's, the Alberta Reptile and Amphibian Herp Society, they used to do the rattlesnake research. So they would go with him and just spot rattlesnakes, and he would handle them and count them and all that kind of other stuff that went along with it. But the government kind of put a kibosh onto that for legal reasons. They didn't want anybody to sue them, and then they'd have to shut down the whole program because they don't want to be liable if anybody were to get injured or bitten. So
now, does somebody like that, do they have to have, or anybody that, well, you said that you mentioned that you guys actually can't keep them as venomous as pets, but for that guy that does the relocations and puts, or the people that put in this, well, I guess the fencing would be something different, but the guy that goes and does the research on them, does he have to have any kind of special permits or anything like that for that? Or?
Yeah, he has a research permit.
Isn't he?
Yeah, he's also doing more engineering things right now, so he's not doing too much research. But yeah, he has special permits from the government to do this research and take counts of the populations and stuff like that. And I believe the guy who does the relocates has a permit to handle these animals. So because that's all managed by Fish and Wildlife. Yeah. So they just want to make sure that people are properly trained.
Yeah, I've got my restricted snake permit through Wildlife and Fisheries through the state, and then I also have through the animal control here. I've got all my permits to keep everything. So, yeah, I do everything legally, and that's kind of, hopefully I'm not jumping too far ahead, but I make sure I do everything legally and do everything the right way. But I've got friends that don't. I know people that don't, and I don't want to get in trouble or anything like that. And that's one thing when I do presentations is. I take all the local, well, I don't say all the local because we've got a lot of local snakes, but we've got, I take a lot of the local snakes, but then I also take one of my cobras. And a lot of people freak out whenever, I usually keep that covered up to the very end, just kind of as a surprise, and people get kind of freaked out. They're like, why in the world do you have a cobra? And I'm like, well, first of all, I like snakes, But second of all, especially when I do it for first responders, I'm like, look, you don't know if you get a call for a snake bite. There's people out there that don't do everything legally. They don't have their permits. Animal control doesn't know about it. Wildlife and fishery doesn't know about it. You go out for a snake bite call. I may not be able to respond to that call. I may not be available for that call. But if you go out there, you need to be prepared. There's people that have these kind of things in their home. So that's why I was kind of curious, too. I guess it's kind of a dual question that I had for you. Is that, well, about the permits, that was the first part, but the second part is, are there people, I'm sure there are, but are there people that keep those illegally, that kind of under the radar kind of thing?
There have been cases here in Western Canada where people have been illegally keeping gaboons. I'm not sure if there's been any cobra cases, but there's been people who keep rattlers that I've heard of, that native rattlers to the province, so that's
like big illegal.
Yeah, completely illegal. You're not allowed to touch native wildlife here, if it's on the Alberta Wildlife Act. So that's a big no-no. In other provinces, I guarantee there's people who keep hots in municipalities where they're not supposed to. I've heard of it multiple times. And there's not very many places, especially there's no places in Manitoba that I'm aware of that has anti-venom for any of the non-native species. it's all in Ontario at zoos where those people work with the exotic species of venomous snakes.
Yeah.
So those are the places where they're going to need it, because if a keeper gets bit, they want to make sure that person is able to have treatment on hand.
Right.
So
yeah, and that was that's one thing too is people ask me about that. Well, for one of the big questions I get is, do I milk all my venomous snakes? And the question is, I mean, the answer is no, I don't do that. That's got to be done it's got to be done in a sterile environment. You've got to have everything set up properly. Once you do it, you've got to filter it, freeze. I mean, it's a big process to do all that. They think I just make my own. They think I just milk my snakes and make anti-venom out of it. I don't know how I'm supposed to do that, but
that's a whole lot of science I have no idea about.
Yeah.
I think you might need a centrifuge.
Right. Yeah. So, but yeah, I'm less than 5 minutes away from the hospital. I've got bite protocols set up. I've got everything labeled. I've got everything set up to where, if in the event that anything ever happened, everything's set up to where, it's not going to be a problem, kind of thing.
Yeah.
I never freehand on my snakes. I always use my hooks, tongs, and even though I have to say that they're not bite proof, they're bite resistant. But I've got the Hex Armor gloves from Snake Professional that I use all the time. I've just got everything. I don't want to screw it up for the hobby. I know there's too many people out there that kind of do things the wrong way. They kind of make it look bad on every other herpetologist out there, and I don't want to do that kind of thing. I try to keep all my safety, especially being a firefighter EMT too. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm all about safety. So
yeah,
I've got to just keep everything. And there's been times when either I'm in a hurry or just get lax and I have to stop. And I'm like, wait a minute, I'm even opening the venomous cages. I've got my gloves on and things like that. And it's just, but like I said, I do everything legally. I don't freehand on my stuff. I don't get stupid with it, And I don't want to jump too far ahead either, because I know I've got questions for you guys and you guys have questions for me. So,
I was actually wondering what exactly a bite protocol is.
I've got everything labeled to where if all we've got to do is take that one label off of the cage. So in case for, because some venoms may cause you to, it may shut your nervous system down and things like that to where you can't speak or swelling or something like that. So that way you can just take that label off and take it with you. I've got all paper. I've got a whole big, huge notebook full of every snake even the snakes that I don't have. It's not because I don't have everything, but it's got a list of every snake, the type of anti-venom you're going to have, what you need to do when you get to the doctor, who to call. I've got phone numbers listed of who to call. I'm trying to remember everything that's on those papers. But basically, you can just take that label off so you know exactly what snake it was. There's no questions asked. You don't have to take a picture. That's something I get asked a lot too. Is I've even had some local hospitals call me because the person actually brought the snake with them after they got bit. So the hospital called me, and I had to rush to the ER to go pick the snake up because they couldn't have it in the ER with them.
That's dangerous.
Yeah, that's scary. I watched that on a TV show, like literally on like a drama TV show. Some guy like brought it was like a coral snake into the ER and was like threatening to leave it at the nurse's station if they didn't do something.
Oh no, that's not cool. Well, see, I don't have my stuff set up that way. I have it where you can just take that label. You can grab even if you're whoever's with me freaks out, just grab the whole notebook and take the notebook. I've got it all together. Everything's together. Yeah. And like I said, I'm 5 minutes from one hospital that I know for a fact has got anti-venom because I've worked in the ER when I was doing my clinicals for my EMT. I've worked in the ER. Everybody knows me there. And then not even less than 10 minutes away is another hospital. The leading toxicologist in Louisiana works at that hospital. So, and I've talked with him. He knows me. He knows my name. He knows what I keep. And so all I got to do is call up to the ER and say, hey, I'm on my way. Here it is. We've got everything ready to go. So one thing too, though, is that like I said, I hope I'm not jumping ahead on some stuff. Is that a lot of people don't know that the main antivenom that we have is crowfab, and that covers the rattlesnakes. We've got two different kinds of rattlesnakes: the water moccasins, cottonmouths, and then the copperheads. And so you don't. That's a big misconception that people, they think they have to bring the snake. So because each snake has their own antivenom, well, the crowfab covers all of those, all four of those. So all you have to do is call up. But one thing that people don't know is crowfab comes in two parts, and you have to mix those parts. And so it comes in it comes in two vials, and you can't just draw up part of it in a needle and shoot it in the other part and just sit here and shake it like this. You actually have to slowly mix it. And so it's really good if somebody ever got bit to call the hospital ahead of time to let them know so they can start getting that antivenom mixed. And it can actually take quite a while to get that stuff mixed. I'll give you guys one big story that kind of defines Steve Snaketuary. Is we got a call one time. I wasn't at the fire station. I was actually off duty, but we got a call across it was when we had pagers back then, and it said 8-year-old girl got bit by a snake. And so I rush over there. By the time I get over there, the paramedic already had her in the back of the ambulance. They had killed the snake. They put it in a jar. And the girl, I don't know why she was barefooted, but running around in the yard barefooted. The snake had bit her on the ankle. She was swollen up a little past the ankle. By the time we got to the hospital, it was almost up to the knee. But when I got on the scene, the paramedic looked at me. He goes, "That was a copperhead, right?" And I said, "Yeah, it was." He goes, "I would not have known that was a copperhead if I hadn't watched your videos on YouTube. But because I knew it was a copperhead, I was able to call the hospital ahead of time, and they're getting everything ready for us when we get there. They're mixing the antivenom, and they're going to have it ready for us." And that really kind of defines what Steve Snaketuary is about. We're really, we're about education and we're about rescue. And, we really want to educate people, let them know the truth about snakes because there's so many misconceptions out there. But then also, just like that, in that instance, we were able to help that girl. They were able to get everything ready. So that's really what we're about, is just helping people. We want to serve everybody and give them all the information that they need about snakes. So.
Well, the more knowledgeable someone is, the more prepared that they're going to be.
Yeah.
And that really, knowledge is power when it comes to this kind of stuff. Yeah. And obviously, it made a time-sensitive issue able to be dealt with effectively.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, because a lot of things, especially with snake bites, depending on the species, it can be half an hour and things are over.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah. There's a lot of places, and it depends on where I'm doing the presentation. I've driven. I'm out of Shreveport, Louisiana, but I've driven over 3 hours away to different fire stations to do presentations, and I always call ahead to find out the nearest hospital and to find out how much antivenom they carried. There was one hospital. When I talked to the nurses in the ER, the nurses had no idea what their protocols were if they got a snake bite. And that's scary. That's very scary.
Yep.
And then I called another hospital that was 30 minutes away from, it was the closest hospital to this fire station. They only had 1 or 2 vials of antivenom. So that's a starter dose. So you can, but then they're going to have to fly them out somewhere else. And those are big things that I try to let people know, especially first responders, is, okay, you're going to get this person and take them to the hospital, but what if that hospital doesn't have what they need?
Yeah.
Is that hospital prepared? I hear stories all the time about, I'm in several groups on social media and stuff, and there's people all the time saying, "Hey, we just got bit by a snake. We're at the hospital. These people don't know what to do. The doctors and nurses don't know what to do." And so that's very, especially me being an advanced EMT and a first responder, that's huge for me. To have the hospital ready and to know, hey, if somebody got bit, and you were mentioning earlier about did you say that they totally got shut down on their research on the snakes, or were they trying to shut that down?
I believe it's shut down right now. We're trying to get back into contact with him, just see if he's still doing it, because we do want to donate funds for the research.
Yeah.
Because that's something that we want to keep going, is research on native species, even if it's not a whole lot going on, but we still want to donate it to him. But we haven't heard back from him lately. So it was shut down for us going to go with him to do the research, but I believe he was still doing it.
And you said it was shut down because of insurance reasons mainly?
Yeah, insurance, and the government didn't want to be liable. So.
Wow. Yeah. Dude, that's terrible.
Yeah.
Are there that many people that, I mean, is it rare to run across a venomous snake up there? Or, I mean, like down here, people run across venomous snakes all the time. So, I mean, is it kind of rare up there, or is it?
It's fairly common in Lethbridge, which is about an hour south of us or farther.
If I go hiking in Drumheller, which is hour and a half from here, I think, you can see dead ones along the highway pretty commonly. But if you actually go hiking out there, it's part of the Badlands. It's the section of the Badlands that stretches up into Canada. So, you'll find rattlesnake dens and stuff like that amongst the hoodoos if you know what you're looking for. So I wouldn't say they're like, you're not going to find one just walking across the street kind of thing. Even in the more densely populated, or the towns that are more densely populated by those animals, you might see them, but I don't think the danger is quite the same as down in the United States.
Yeah, like the recorded number of bites here in Canada that I'm aware of, there could be non-recorded bites, is I can't remember the number of bites, but I know there's 3 deaths.
And 3 deaths in all of Canada seems like not too bad numbers for me. I was looking at the numbers in the United States, and that was kind of crazy. So,
well, the last recorded death was 40 years ago.
In Canada?
Yeah.
Wow.
That's a long time ago.
Yeah, and that's, knowing that people here do keep them as pets. At least on the other half of the country anyway. But to know that there's only been 3 deaths in all of Canada, so what, 2 countries around 200 years old. Don't lynch me, everybody. But we don't have, to be a keeper, you don't have to be registered or anything like that. I don't know anyone that has bite protocols or anything like that in Canada. I would hope they do. I would really hope they do.
I looked into this.
Oh, Brandon looked into it?
Yes. And in Ontario, there's numerous hospitals that actually have bite protocols because of the zoos and the Massachusetts species, the northern pine rattlesnake.
I think so.
That's in Ontario. So they do have protocols because they're both fairly common there. So, and all the other venomous species that the zoos keep. So they want to make sure that they're going to have the proper stuff for zookeepers if they were to have an accident.
So I guess like the Calgary Zoo would just get their anti-venom from Lethbridge if the zookeeper had an issue?
Well, I don't believe the Calgary Zoo has any venomous species.
They have rattlesnakes.
Do they?
Or they did at one point.
So is it just the zoos? Is it just the zoos that keep the anti-venom, or do any of the hospitals? Like, I'm curious about if the first responders have any kind of training in this.
I could not find that information out for Ontario. There's some first responders in Lethbridge that do have the knowledge because there's only one species. So if it's a snake bite, they kind of have a pretty quick
prairie rattlesnake.
Yeah,
that's your culprit.
Yeah, that's the only culprit. And then the Lethbridge Hospital does have anti-venom for the prairie rattlesnake. And then there's various zoos in Ontario for there's the Indian River, there's the Toronto Zoo. I believe the Vancouver Zoo used to have anti-venom. I'm not 100% sure anymore. Calgary Zoo might, depending if they have venomous species at the facility. Because they have a lot of stuff in the back that they don't have for public viewing. But I didn't see any on their latest list of species that they have.
We interviewed Dr. Walton last month or something like that, and he's kind of the go-to guy when the BCSPCA does animal seizures. So anything illegal goes to him. He tries to ship it somewhere where it's illegal, kind of thing. But he was telling us about how they got an illegal gaboon viper at like 11 o'clock at night.
Wow.
So the only place to get exotic antivenom is from Ontario, which is 5 provinces away.
Yeah.
So it has to get
Wow.
flown literally across the country because all the only local hospitals have local stuff, basically.
Yeah, there's a couple hospitals in Ontario that have some exotic stuff, but it's mostly the Indian River Zoo where they have the majority of it because they have a lot of hot species there.
The more you know.
Yeah.
Don't get bit.
Yeah, that was another thing that I mentioned, and like I said, I'm sorry if I'm jumping ahead or jumping around or whatever, but I just found out recently that they came out with a new antivenom called Antivip, and I'm trying to find out because most of the hospitals around here just carry Crofab, so I'm trying to find out if any of the hospitals are starting to use the new stuff, and I can't get an answer on any of it. So that's something I'm looking into. But like I said, the Crofab, the only thing that it doesn't cover, and I don't think the hospitals around here have it, is we have coral snakes here.
Yeah.
And that's a neurotoxic venom. So that's something that don't carry and they'd have to get flown in too. So, but I know the Houston Zoo has got a lot of it. I haven't checked Dallas. Dallas is a lot closer, but and like I said, I don't want to jump around too much. So I mean, if I'm jumping ahead or anything, just stop me.
We just go with the flow. We aren't structured here.
One thing I wanted to get into is the Crofab, the copperheads, water moccasins, and a lot of people, I have to say this, I say it a lot because a lot of people don't know, water moccasins and cottonmouths are the same kind of snake. A lot of people think they're two different kinds of snakes, but they call water moccasins cottonmouths because when they open their mouths, it's as white as cotton. That's where they get the name from.
Interesting.
But the copperheads, the water moccasins, and we have canebrakes, rattlesnakes, or some. It depends on what part of the country you're in, but canebrake and timber rattlesnakes are the same kind of thing. And then we also have the coral snake. And I've heard from different places that parts of Louisiana have the eastern diamondback rattlesnake, but I've never seen one, so I'm not sure what parts have those. But so the Crofab covers the pit vipers, the coral snake, and those. Let's see, I got to stop myself because I'm jumping ahead. The water moccasins, copperheads, and rattlesnakes are all mostly hemotoxic venom, so it's gonna mess with your blood, your clotting factors. And then the coral snake is a mostly neurotoxic venom, so it's going to shut down your nervous system. Now, most of them also, they have like a mixture of venoms. So you're going to get some neurotoxic properties, I guess, in some of the hemotoxic snakes. And they also have like a cytotoxic property. The cytotoxic, what that means is it messes with the cells, it disrupts the cells, and that's what causes the tissue necrosis. And so you're going to actually have a mixture of those, mostly the cytotoxic and the hemotoxic. And then the coral snake is mostly neurotoxic, so it shuts down your nervous system. The one thing that I heard, and I haven't seen the actual research on it, but I've heard from a lot of trusted sources that the canebrake or timber rattlesnake that we have here is one of the most toxic across the U.S. For some reason, and I know I'm trying to, let's see, the example I can give, I guess, is you can go to Texas and you can go to the eastern part of Texas and catch western diamondbacks, go to the western part of Texas and catch some western diamondbacks. And of course, the mixture of their venom is going to be completely different. See, venom is mainly just a bunch of proteins, and it helps them break down their food. But I've heard that the mixture of the canebrake or timber, the mixture and the venom that we have for the canebrake or timber rattlesnake is one of the most potent across the country because it's got a lot of neurotoxic properties with it also. But like I said, I've heard that from very trusted sources, but I haven't seen the research on it. So that's something I'm still looking into.
It's very.
Go ahead.
I was going to say it's very interesting because I've heard a lot of studies and stuff from people that depending on what area you're in, some snakes are more toxic than others, depending on what kind of adaptations that they need to eat their prey and all that kind of stuff. And toxins can vary throughout their life stages too, from my understanding, anyway.
Yeah, and that, yeah, yeah, and there. Then here's another thing too that I've had a lot of people tell me, and I haven't seen the research on this. People have told me that, and this is uneducated people too. I have not heard this from trusted sources. This is just uneducated people that they tell me that the venomous snakes that I keep are highly toxic because I keep them in captivity and they're not out chasing their prey and things like that. And I'm like, well, maybe, maybe not. I don't know. I haven't seen any research on that. So that's something that I'm kind of interested in finding out too. So.
That doesn't really make sense because in captivity, they're not really hunting their prey anymore. So it could be that they're adapting to be more toxic, but I would think that they would adapt to be less toxic because they actually don't need that anymore to kill their prey, but it still could aid in their digestive system.
Yeah, yeah. Another big question that I get all the time, comment I get, is that you need to watch out for the babies because they're more venomous than their adult counterparts. And I'm like, well,
that's what I've always heard.
Okay, so here are my thoughts on that. My thoughts on that are there's been no studies that I know of to prove that a baby snake doesn't know how to control its venom. I've never seen any studies on that.
Yeah.
But you also, let's just say that's a factor. Let's just hypothetically say that a baby snake doesn't know how to control its venom. You also have to know that a bigger snake has bigger fangs and bigger venom glands.
Yeah.
And so they can easily inject more venom in one bite. So, but you have to think too that a snake knows that it needs its venom to help break down its food, to help digest its food. So they may or may not give a dry bite. So, there's too many factors in that. So people ask me all the time, well, what's the most venomous snake? Well, my answer to that is the most venomous snake is the one that just bit you.
Exactly.
If I get bit by my copperhead, if I get bit by my copperhead, I'm not going to be worrying about one of my cobras. No. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But now they do have an LD50 level. That's the lethal dose to kill 50% of the test subjects. So if you have 100 rats, what's it going to take to kill 50 of those? And they've got all of the snakes listed on that LD50 chart, but you have to think, well, some are hemotoxic, some are neurotoxic. You have to look at the yield. I've got a chart that shows the yield amounts that an adult snake can yield. They can yield a bunch, but if they give a dry bite, you never know. You have to look at the health of the person that got bit, how healthy they were, if they have any pre-existing conditions, how much venom was injected. There's so many factors in what it's going to do to that person. You know what I mean? And people always ask me, well, can I get to the hospital? You got plenty of time for us here. I don't know about you guys, but for us here, we've got plenty of time to get to the hospital. The best thing to do is stay calm. I know that's easier said than done because most people, they're already freaking out when you mention the word snake. Their heart rate's already through the roof.
Yeah.
You say the word snake and it's, but then if they get bit by a snake, oh, good Lord, it's on now.
Yeah.
So, but the best thing to do is stay calm, remove any kind of jewelry. For first responders, we're going to start marking the swelling. What we do is we draw just kind of like a line on where the snake bit, and then as the swelling progresses, we draw another line and put the time on there. The reason we do that is so the doctor knows how fast it's progressing. He can also kind of lets him know how much venom was actually injected. The one thing though is I've got to say this with snake bites and I actually had to correct my EMT when I went through EMT basic and my advanced EMT book because both of my books said to put an ice and put a tourniquet on it. And that's some of the worst things that you can do, because what that's going to do is that's going to cause more tissue necrosis in that area. It's going to cause that venom to pool right there. And so don't put ice, don't put a tourniquet on it. There's been some controversy even among doctors about elevating the extremity. And some people think, well, if you elevate it above the level of the heart, that gravity is going to cause the venom to go to the heart and get pushed through the body faster. But then also some doctors say, well, if you keep it below the level of the heart, it's going to cause that venom to pool. Like say they get bit on their hand and you keep it below the level of the heart, it's going to cause that venom to pool in that area. I do know, so there's controversy among doctors. I do know after they give the first dose of antivenom, they raise it. They make sure it's raised, because what they do is they try to keep that swelling down. But that's, I know for a fact, after the first dose of antivenom. I'm sure some people out there have seen a lot of pictures about fasciotomies when they like cut the person's arm open, they fillet it open.
Yeah, I've heard that that's a bad thing to do.
Yep.
And
it's never
ideally you want to hold out. Good to know.
Yeah.
But you know, medicine's always kind of
never necessary.
Yeah, in a lot of those places that are probably practicing that, they just don't know.
Yeah. So I mean, if anybody out there ever gets bit and the doctor wants to do a fasciotomy, tell them no. It's never necessary. Never. Another big misconception is that they think coral snakes have to chew to inject their venom. And coral snakes, I was corrected on this. Do what?
Chew it in like a rear fang venomous snake.
Actually, yeah, coral snakes are not rear fanged. You know, they're actually elapids, just like cobras. But the big difference is they don't have the fangs like the pit vipers. Their fangs go out and come back in. They have fixed fangs and they're right up front. Yeah. The coral snakes don't. They're fixed, and they are smaller fangs, but they don't have to chew to inject venom. They can actually. They're just like cobras. They can bite and inject venom. I think where that comes from is because, and a lot of snakes actually do this. They don't let go. Sometimes they bite and they just hang on. And I think that's where some people came across that, is they saw the coral snake just hang on, and they thought that it had to chew to inject its venom, but it doesn't. So another big misconception is, you know, a lot of people with coral snakes, they think red on yellow kill a fella, red and black good for Jack. But you can't go by that either. I've got so many pictures of coral snakes that don't fit that, and also non-venomous snakes like the Texas longnose snake has got the red and yellow next to each other. So it's not really, it's kind of a general rule, but you can't always go by that. You know, there's so many misconceptions out there about venomous snakes that I have to correct every time I do a presentation. I have to correct it. You know, a lot of people talk about the head shape. They say if it's got a diamond or triangle shaped head, then it's venomous. Well, yes, venomous snakes do have their pits in their jaw, so it does create that diamond or triangle shape. But the regular water snakes we have here, we've got 3 different non-venomous water snakes. We've got the bandage, the diamondbacks, and the yellow bellies, or plain bellies. Even the plain rat snakes that we have. I think the name was changed. I've known them as a Texas rat snake, but I think the name was changed to a western rat snake. But they all flatten their heads out into that diamond or triangle shape. So you can't go by the head shape. A lot of people talk about the elliptical pupils. If it's got the cat slit pupil, then it's venomous. Well, first of all, I'm not going to tell you to grab a snake and look at it this close and look at its eyes, you know?
but like my boa has a split,
you know,
like
even
pupil like that. You know, my boa doesn't have a round pupil like a corn snake does. And neither are venomous.
Exactly.
Don't go by the eye.
Right. Well, you know, the coral snake. Yeah. So, but the coral snake's got the round pupil, and plus pupils dilate just like people. The snake's pupils dilate just like people, and so if there's a low light situation, it can look round. So it's just you can't go by those, you know, and. If you don't know what the snake is, don't pick it up. Call me. I'll come get it for you. Or send me a picture, you know, send me a text. And I can tell you, you know, but I'm real big on, like I said, I'm real big on education. I want to let people know, hey, here are some myths, here are some things that maybe you were taught, but here's some things you can look for. And that's one thing I like to do in my presentations is hold snakes up side by side so people can tell the difference too. So that's just something I'm real passionate about.
Yeah, well, if you don't know what it is, you shouldn't be picking it up to begin with. That's just the way I see it.
Yeah.
It's just taking that risk factor out of the equation.
I just don't want to pick up random snakes. I'm good.
We're pretty lucky here. Most of the stuff here doesn't want to kill us.
Yeah, exactly. Like, we have 7 species of snake, and one of them is venomous?
Yeah, the prairie rattle. So, and that's pretty obvious what it is.
Yeah, and from, my reading, the prairie rattlesnake is one of the,
least dangerous snakes.
Yeah, well, not least dangerous snakes, but, if you're going to get bit by a rattlesnake, you probably want to get bit by a prairie rattlesnake, is how I understand it.
Yeah.
Their venom has less ass kicked to it.
Less toxic.
Yeah.
I just don't want to get bit, period.
That's what I tell people too. Yeah, that's one thing I tell people. It's like the copperhead here. It's less toxic, but I'm not going to tell you to go get bit by a snake either, though.
Yeah.
I've seen people comparing copperheads to false water cobra bites, and I don't know enough about either to say that's a good comparison, but I don't think those two things should be compared at the same time.
No. Every snake bite's different because everybody reacts differently.
Yeah, I was gonna say maybe I shouldn't say this, but maybe I was gonna say I could do a science experiment and get bit by each one and see what happens. I don't.
You know what?
I'm sure
there's someone that's already been bitten by multiple species of rattlesnakes. So let's just find someone else that's already.
That does not sound like a good time to me. Just the recovery time, the anti-venom, that's also super expensive, and it's just not a good time.
Yeah.
We were talking about antivenom earlier. I've heard that with COVID going on right now, there is an antivenom shortage in the United States. Is that a thing?
Is there?
Okay,
I know a couple of years ago, and you're gonna you'll have to forgive me on the dates, but I do know several years ago the cost for the coral snake antivenom was so much, and there were so few bites that they quit making the antivenom. So the FDA went in there and they pulled some vials off the shelf. They tested it and they said, okay, these are still good. So they pushed the expiration date back. A couple of times to where they couldn't do that anymore.
Ooh.
And so they got together with, I think it was Pfizer and Wyeth. I think those are the two companies that they got together with, and so they started making more coral snake antivenom. But as far as the crowfab, no, there's no shortage of crowfab. But I do know a couple of years ago we had an issue with the coral snake antivenom.
Maybe that's what it was. What I had heard was there's a lab in Africa that produces the antivenom, but they're concentrating all their efforts on a COVID vaccine right now. I don't know. I just heard it. I thought I would ask. I don't know.
I know there's a antivenom in Africa that works for 2 species, and everybody's getting bit by everything else. So they're having a hard time treating snake bites, which is terrible because Africa just is getting massacred with snake bites by various species in different areas, which is very unfortunate. Because a lot of those people don't have access to get to the hospitals because they're a 4-hour drive from the nearest hospital, but there's no vehicles for those small villages to get to those people in time to get treatment, which is very unfortunate, which happens a lot in these other countries.
Yeah.
Thank you, Canada, for only having a few venomous species that I never see.
Yeah, well, I mean, but you already mentioned that there's several people there that do things illegally. So
Yes, that is
I don't know,
true.
man. I feel kind
Yeah, it's
of
people do.
hopefully they're responsible keepers and don't. Hopefully they're
It's,
Yeah,
responsible and they don't let their pets out. You know what I mean? So
that's definitely something you hope for. Actually, one of our commenters, I think, might be a keeper, so maybe he could weigh in with some of the how-tos of venomous keeping in Canada.
yeah, I don't know any venomous keepers in Canada, but I probably could reach out to some and then have more information for the next time we talk about venomous.
I know one. I found him in a Facebook group when he was doing a Gila Monster unboxing, and I was like, people in Canada have cool stuff.
Yeah. Well, I know of there's a few people in Manitoba, but they're not super public about them keeping venomous and stuff like that. Not sure if they're doing it legally or properly. So
I would hope if they're doing it illegally, they're not posting it on the internet, because that seems like a really poor choice to do. And I mean, like, people are always going to do what people are going to do, and I just hope you don't
mess it up for the rest of us.
Yeah, don't mess it up for the rest of us and lose your life in the process. You know, it just.
Yeah, especially here in Canada, because we have universal health care. So if somebody were to get bit, they're going to get treatment no matter what, just like in the States. Yeah,
Yeah, and it's not going to cost you
but
money.
it's not going to cost you $200,000 because you need 27 vials of an anti-venom.
No,
Right.
it's going to cost you zero. Oh, Max says he's legal.
I'm kind of interested in what he keeps.
Yeah, Mac, do you want to let us know what you keep?
And maybe we'll get him on an episode so we can learn more about Canadian keeping of venomous snakes.
Yeah, that'd be sweet. Come on. I'm gonna message you after this and ask you to join. Steve, I'm assuming you can't see these comments because you're on your phone. We can't put them on the screen.
no,
Yes,
I
we can.
cannot. No.
Brandon and I forgot we have technical abilities.
Yeah, we have technical. We'll go back to some of what Max said, and
I've got everything. You guys are gonna have to forgive me because I'm using my phone.
Yeah, we can post the comments on the screen so that you can see them.
Hopefully, but,
Yeah.
looking on a screen this big is kind of hard.
You might need a magnifying glass.
Max said he's not a fan of the comparison from vipers and lapids with rear fang and venomous snakes because the delivery system is totally different, which is true.
Yeah, definitely. Whereas rear fang venomous have grooved back teeth. Is that what it is?
And I'm kind of glad he brought it up because I was gonna say something kind of along those lines, a little bit different though. But what I think I was gonna go back to something I said and kind of elaborate on it. I think the part where people get the idea of the tourniquet from is because with like a lapis, like the coral snake or the cobra, things like that, their venom runs through the lymphatic system. And so if you put a light compression bandage on it, that can stop that can, or not stop, but slow.
Technical difficulties.
Steve froze. Steve really froze.
Yeah. The joys of internet.
Yeah, go internet. Hang on, everyone. We're waiting for Steve.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know anything about venomous snake first aid, so.
Yeah, it's like definitely really good to know and like learn it because hell, like what if me and you were go herping down in Medicine Hat or whatever and we get bit?
Well, if we are going to herp for rattlesnakes and whatever else, I am going to call the hospital in the area to see what their protocols are in case I get bit while we're doing whatever, just so everybody that we're going with knows what to do.
Yeah, that actually is a pretty good plan. And
instead of just all of a sudden somebody gets bit by a snake and we're
everyone
all freaking
panics.
out. Yeah. And then at least we can call the hospital ahead of time, like Steve mentioned, and they can start implementing their protocols. that they should have in place, I would think, because if you're in that area.
Do, 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 do.
Yeah, because I know like Venom from Canadian Videophile, he goes out and does hiking and finds lots of rattlesnakes, bull snakes, and stuff.
Yeah,
like that.
he just posted some really cool
rattlesnake dens.
Yeah, rattlesnake dens from Saskatchewan. So I thought that was pretty cool. We shared those to the page if any of you want to look at that.
So Matt keeps rattlesnakes, scaboons, puffs, gilas, on a viper ray, squams, and Vogel's pit viper, and a few more. We're gonna need you to come on an episode.
Yeah.
Because that's something we can't have here in Alberta.
Not even a little bit.
Still want to learn about it because it's good to know.
Yeah, that's kind of what we learned from doing the research for this episode, was finding proper antivenoms in Canada is a really big pain in the ass, because everything needs to be, everything has to come from Ontario, basically.
Yeah. And
for exotic stuff.
And if they don't have it in Ontario, it'd probably have to come from the States. And at that point, I'm not sure if you would have to pay for it or how that would work, and the timeline on to get that stuff. Because I know in the States they've been having lots of troubles because somebody will get bit, and then the closest zoo that has antivenom, they wipe them clean, and then the zoo does not operate properly because they don't have anything for their zookeepers if something were to happen. And most people don't pay the zoo back for those antivenoms, so then the zoo's out even more money. So which is very unfortunate, because the zoo's doing things properly, and then somebody doesn't do things properly, and then they have to get medical treatment.
No thanks. No thanks. I think the Canadian approach to venomous keeping is really interesting, because you look at Florida and stuff like that, where you have to have 1,200 hours per species basically to get your permitting for that, and there's nothing. You got nothing.
Cody, I better get an invite for this hypothetical herping trip. I still haven't seen reliably. Even if I can get a hands-on with a bull, I'll be giddy as a schoolgirl.
I grew up hiking in Drumheller in the Badlands. You and Kylie come get me, and we
go see snakes out there. And because with the rattlesnake trip for the research, we did that in October, mid-October. So we still got a couple more weeks, so that might be something that we'd be able to put together.
CHP herp trip. That'd be sweet.
Invite only.
No, you just have to live near us. Basically.
Yeah. So that's something that we would be putting together.
Yeah, that'd be sweet. We have a lot of plans for traveling and stuff like that, but COVID really kind of threw everything off for us. So we're not doing the things we plan to be doing at the moment, but
Steve must have really crashed.
Yeah, I messaged him, and it's showing as delivered but not received kind of thing.
Maybe his phone died or something.
Yeah, I'm not too sure. Should we do the thing?
Do the thing?
Do the thing?
Well, we can't do the thing without Steve.
I'm hungry.
Yeah, me too. But we can't do the thing without Steve, because we got to talk about what they are and why they came about.
I'm so sad, everybody.
Technical difficulties.
I'm still bummed I never made it to one of those Taurus rattlesnake research trips.
Me too.
Yeah, all of us are. We are all salty about it.
I joined Terra's, and then I was like, rattlesnake trip? Yeah. And then the government's like, no. And then I cried.
Yep. It would be really cool if we could get like the government to say, yes, you guys can go with this fancy schmancy scientist. No touching.
Well, that was the thing the whole time is we couldn't touch the animals.
Well, yeah, exactly. So
but
like,
we just spotted them.
why can't we still do it? I want to do the thing.
The thing.
Do the thing.
Yeah, because he would tube them and do all that other kind of stuff. I'm not sure if he like put trackers on them or anything because I never went there, but
That's crazy.
yeah, he would like tube them. So I'm not sure. Maybe if they put like a small tag on them so that they like the following year they could come back with like, hey, we found this snake the previous year.
Like the trackers that they use for cobras.
I don't think it would be tracker because I'm not sure if they're tracking them, but it could just be just like a color tag with
or just like an ID tag kind of thing. Possibly.
Yeah, it's a possibility.
We really lost Steve.
That's the longest that we've lost somebody so far.
We've never lost any guests this long. Oh, he read my message. Steve's at least alive.
There we go.
We know Steve's
He
alive.
wasn't handling any venomous snakes at the time, so.
Well, he says he doesn't free handle, so.
Yep. Which, don't free handle. Don't be the YouTube. I watched some like real venomous keepers on YouTube, and it's like the most boringest thing ever.
Oh yeah, but then you get like certain YouTubers that are in their early to mid 20s that are just like, woo! I have a 15-foot. Well, wild to me. I don't know. I don't even trust my dog half the time not to eat another dog, let alone like a 15-foot king cobra that there isn't enough of me to control. Like, there's just literally not enough of me to control an animal that big.
Yeah.
Safely. And, like, I realize most people are, like, more used to constrictors, but, like, I have a Dumeril's boa that's bordering on, like, being too big for me to handle by myself just because of my own comfort zone, but, like...
Everybody's comfort level is different, too, though.
Yeah, which I get, but, like, when that thing can turn around and bite you in the face and kill you dead, I think your comfort zone should be a little shorter.
Yeah, you would think, but people do things because they're people.
That's true. That is true. That is true. But did you guys know that in Newfoundland you can have a gaboon viper, but you can't have a king snake?
Sounds logical.
Totally logical.
It's because Newfies.
Super logical. The most logical exotic law in all of Canada.
No king snakes, but you can have gaboons.
Yeah, I don't get it. I don't get it. Steve's still gone.
Can't do the thing without him now.
I know. So the plan is to try some of Steve's hot sauces. Should we show them the bottles at least?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll show you guys the bottles.
Because he's got a line of 6 hot sauces. We got 5 because one's limited.
Okay, this is the Copperhead Venom sauce. It is a Carolina Reaper sauce. It is rated 3 out of 10 on the Burn Cannon Brandon's Mouth scale. We haven't tried any of these yet, so I've had these hot sauces for like a week, and I just want to eat it. It's like pink-ish purple. It is a 5 out of 10. I ordered these in Melt Your Face Off, by the way.
Oh, perfect.
This is the Cottonmouth Venom sauce. It's like a green sauce. I'm hoping it tastes as good as Myrna's green sauce, because, like, hot damn, that lady makes the best green sauce of my life.
Hey!
We have Steve back. Sure. Okay, and this one is
I have no idea what happened.
No idea. I'm showing off the
I'm
hot
here.
sauces right now.
You got me.
Okay, so this one is a 6 out of 10 on the hotness. Hot. We have the Cane Break Rattlesnake Chipotle and Blood Orange Hot Sauce. This one is a 6 out of 10 again. And then we have the Coral Snake Venom Sauce. It is a pineapple mango banana jerk sauce.
That sounds delicious.
Brandon, no jerking this sauce.
Don't tell me what to do.
And it's an 8 out of 10.
Since we just talked about the sauces, but we should go back to snake first aid, because you were talking about tourniquets and stuff like that, because that's something I have no idea about, and I think it's important.
Yeah, so I greatly, please forgive me for that. I greatly apologize. I have no idea what went. Everything just went blank. So I don't
Technology, man.
It's okay. It's usually me, so I'm glad it happened to someone else. It's always me.
So anyway, so what I think is, back to what I was saying, was the idea of the tourniquet came from, I think what happens a lot of times too, because I've worked on a lot of TV shows too. I didn't mention that before, is I use a lot of my snakes for TV shows and movies and things like that also. And I think what happens is people in America watch TV shows of other people in other countries and things like that, and they think, well, if it works over there, it's going to work over here too. And so I think the idea of the tourniquet came from the light compression bandage for neurotoxic venoms, since they flow through the lymphatic system. And so it operates differently. So kind of going back to, I don't remember who made the comment before, but when he was talking about the delivery system. So the delivery system is different for different snakes and different venoms and things like that. So that's one thing I was going to throw out, is you can't, going back to what I said about the tourniquet, don't put a tourniquet on it. It's just lay flat and get them to the hospital. So I think that's where all that comes from. So.
Yeah, there's probably not a whole lot you can do for first aid for snake bites, but it's still important for people to know if they're responding to a bite.
Well, and like, I think those first, that first 20 minutes, half an hour is probably pretty important for how you handle it.
Yeah, and that's why I say it's very important for people to know what their protocols are, and like the hospital, like I was mentioning earlier for you guys, do your local hospitals carry that kind of thing, or is it just the zoos? So do first responders know that kind of thing? So when you go to that snake bite call, if it's going to be a 4-hour drive to the hospital to actually get anti-venom, you know what I mean? Or the hospital they're going to, they even actually have the anti-venom that you need, kind of thing. So that's why it's.
Mac had mentioned that his problem with keeping some of the species that he keeps is being able to properly source the antivenom if he were to get bit.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. While you were away, me and Ken were talking about doing a herp trip, looking for rattlesnakes, and one of the things I mentioned is that before the trip, I want to call the nearest hospital to the area that we're going to and see what their protocol is, if there is one. So if we were to get bit by a prairie rattlesnake, where are we going to go? How much time do we have? And do we need to call ahead and let them know so that they can initiate their protocol in case something were to happen? So that's just being preventative in what you're doing.
Right.
Well, and if you feel... Go ahead.
Yeah, don't carry one of the snake bite kits. Yeah, don't suck and cut. You know what I mean? Because that's just gonna cause a lot more problems. I mean, I don't know if they sell them where you guys are, but I know here in some of the stores here they still sell them. It's a little yellow plunger that you're supposed to stick on the snake bite and supposedly suck the venom out, and that it's already in the bloodstream. It's not going to do anything. So
that
does not make sense. Get a razor blade and cut it. Yeah, it's just going to cause more infection and things like that. So that's not good. So
just let it do its thing and get the hell to the hospital.
I have no idea what the person's thought process on was. This is going to help snake bites. Let's mutilate your flesh and put the syringe on it.
Yeah.
Clearly, they didn't know anything about medicine at all.
I've seen who's that guy that always gets bit by stuff on
Coyote Pierce.
Yeah, I've seen him use one of those venom extractors.
That's on TV.
Yeah. Hey, I never said he was credible, okay?
No.
But like, that's where people
Shock value.
But that's where people like us like see that stuff, and that's what we retain as information because it's on TV. It's credible, right? Like this guy seems like he's doing educational stuff, right? But
yeah.
Shock value.
Yeah.
Who wants to get bit by bugs for fun?
Right. Well, I'm kind of crazy, so I might do that. But you know, and I've worked on TV shows before, and TV shows are just looking for ratings. If they don't get ratings, then you know what I mean, they're going to go down. And I've had that happen so many times too. I go out, somebody calls me because they have a snake in their house or their business or whatever, and everybody gets their phones out and their video, and I just walk over and pick the snake up, and I have them tell me all the time, well, that was it. What do you expect? Do you want me to waddle around on the floor? And I mean, what do you want me to do? You know, I came and I got the snake. And I guess, you know, they watch all these shows and they see all the drama and they see everything kind of blown out of proportion. So that's what they expect, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. Mac was saying, and if your hospitals are willing to use personal that's good information, because I wasn't sure if, especially for exotic stuff, if in Canada there isn't enough supply and they need more, are they going to have to order it from the States, and how long that's going to take? He says these kits.
I've seen that too. Yeah.
Apparently they
I've seen that too,
kits.
And I've also seen because some hospitals, because there's still a stigma in some hospitals, they don't know that the antivenoms have changed throughout the years and the way that they make them. And because when they make them, they mix them with horse serum or sheep serum to build the antibodies up. Yeah. And so way back when, before they changed everything, people could have been allergic to all that. I mean, there's still a possibility somebody could be allergic to it, but they've changed the way that they do it. And so the allergic reaction is nowhere near what it used to be. And so some hospitals are still scared to even give the antivenom because they remember back to where somebody had an allergic reaction or something like that. And so some
they died from allergic reaction.
Hospitals don't want to like that.
Yeah, I've heard people of dying from anaphylactic shock from the antivenoms, and that's unfortunate.
Well, I've also read that allergies and stuff like that can cause secondary issues with the way the venom itself reacts with your body.
Yeah, it's possible. There are some properties that can affect, and again, that goes back to I kind of mentioned before. It depends on that person, how healthy they are, what other pre-existing conditions they have, and let's see. You just mentioned something that triggered something else. Let's see. What did you just ask? Oh, see, you asked about allergies and things. Let's see.
Oh, yeah.
Something. You triggered something, and I say something else, and now I don't remember what it was. Oh well.
It was allergies and stuff like that cause a
secondary effects.
Secondary effects, and how the venom
no, yeah, it was actually before that when you were talking about shock. One of you mentioned shock, and that's one thing that I responders is because I can really get into the physics of it and the pathophysiology of it. I don't know how detailed you want to go, but
not as detailed as Brian Fry.
You can kind of look at the heart and the lung as one system, and so the heart is actually, people say, well, the heart pumps blood. Well, yeah, it pumps blood, but it mainly pumps oxygen through the body. And so what happens is, like I mentioned before, you hear the word snake and most people already freak out anyway. Their heart rate already goes up. Well, if your heart rate is pumping so fast, it's not contracting and expanding and pushing that blood out like it's supposed to. It's not able to keep, your lungs aren't able to keep up with the blood flow. And so your blood's not getting that oxygen that it needs to pump throughout the body. And so what happens is your body starts shutting down because it's not getting that oxygen. And that's why a lot of people have complications, because they go into shock. And that's basically that. There's several different kinds of shock. But that's basically what it is your body's not getting that oxygen that it needs. And so it starts shutting down. And so for first responders, the big thing they have to do is treat for that shock and try to calm that person down, get their heart rate down. And it's like I said, I'm trying not to get too technical because I don't know who I was watching, but it's something called a VQ mismatch, to where there's a mismatch with that oxygen. It's a oxygen ventilation. And so you get that mismatch and your body's not getting that, so you go into shock. And that's where most of the problems come, is because people go into shock. It's not from the venom itself. It's because they go into shock. So
that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, that's something that I didn't know. So I'm all for sciencey jargon, but not all of it I can understand.
we were trying to read some taxonomy reports from Dr. Fry, and it was like, never mind, I'm not going to do this research because I need a separate dictionary to look up these words.
Can somebody read this for me and then explain it in regular people terms?
Can someone get a big red crayon and rewrite this for me?
Or just read it, and then, if somebody's asking you, just maybe pick out one or two words and throw those one or two words out to make it sound like you know what you're talking about.
That's right.
We could do that.
Just throw out big fancy words and we'll sound smart.
Yeah. So now, like I told you guys about VQ mismatch. So when somebody's talking about snake bites, just throw in VQ mismatch, and they'll be like, "Oh, I don't know what that is." You're like, "Hey, man, it's all about I know more than you. It's all about the education."
Yeah, yeah. It's all about knowing things, and knowledge is power.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just like a little reptile sponge. I want to learn it all.
And then forget most of it later.
Shush. Forget it until I rewatch my last episode. There's been times where I'm like, hang on. I talked to this about someone in an interview. I have valuable information to contribute, but then I have to watch the whole interview again to find that certain little tidbit to quote properly. And yeah.
You just send link to the video and it's like, here, I already did this interview, now it's your time to learn.
I do that sometimes. I'll be like, I actually talked about this in this episode. Here's the YouTube link.
Yeah.
I don't like that very much. But you don't have to be a know-it-all. It's like, actually, I was the one asking the questions. I'm not a know-it-all. I interviewed someone smarter than me.
Yeah. I just retained the information.
Yeah, I just knew I talked about it. Here's the link.
So I guess we'll dive into the hot sauce portion of everything, since we know more about some venom, unless there's more venom information you want to pass on first.
I don't know, man. If anybody's got any questions, they can always hit me up. But if something pops in my head, I'll let you know.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. So how did the hot sauces come about?
Okay, so I consider myself a hot sauce connoisseur. Love hot sauce. Didn't always like it, I remember a time when I was real little, and my family would go eat at Mexican restaurants, and the little bowl of salsa on, for your chip dip and stuff. And I used to think that stuff was scorching hot, but now it's just kind of like tomato juice. So I've got cabinets full of hot sauce. Love hot sauce, and I was like, well, I'm into snakes. So, and I like venomous snakes. Venomous snakes are called hot snakes. So hot snakes and hot sauce, why not put them together, right? So
yeah,
what I did was I got together with a professional chef, and we tailored the flavors and the heat levels to the types of snakes. So I don't know what you guys said when my screens went black. So
we just showed the bottles and read the titles.
Okay. So, what we started, the Copperhead is a 3 out of 10 because Copperhead, the venom's not as potent as the rest of them, right?
Yep. Okay, hold on. Let's try this as we go through.
Hey, froze again.
Oh, I think he did. Hang on, we won't try them yet. Steve, come back to us.
Oh, there he is.
Okay, he's back?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. We are going to try the Copperhead.
Okay, so wait a minute. Let me ask you. You guys are in Canada.
Yes.
Now I'm from the South, right?
Yeah.
So I'm used to hot stuff. How are Canadians with hot stuff? Do you guys like hot sauce?
Some of us do, and some of us don't.
I like hot stuff, and
I like hot stuff. My wife does not, so we don't eat a whole lot of hot stuff. But
my partner can tell when I put 2 chilies in something and 3 chilies in something because he can't handle 3. So
Okay,
but
I will say this: the heat levels on my hot sauce are heat levels are always subjective.
Yeah.
So the 8 out of 10 coral snake, the 8 out of 10 for me is like a 1. So it's going to kind of depend on how you are with hot sauce. So I just wanted to see. I didn't know how Canadians work, so we can dive in and see how it is.
I think sriracha sauce and Frank's Red Hot are basically the staples in most people's houses.
Yeah.
I go through an uncomfortable amount of Frank's Red Hot on a weekly basis, and that's probably why I have so many issues. I think Steve's frozen again.
Oh, no.
So
Okay.
Okay, so wait a minute. If you're used to Frank's hot sauce,
Yeah.
if you think that's hot, then
I know.
Then these might be a little hotter for you.
No,
Okay.
it's like
Okay.
I hate ketchup, but it's essentially my ketchup. Put it that way.
I guess we're gonna find out how this is gonna go.
Let's do this.
Only
All right.
one way to find out.
All right, ready?
So-
Grab your wing.
All right, let's go. Let's go.
Okay. This is my big meaty wing.
Yeah.
Where's your paper towel?
And I'm
so
gonna
good.
try it with you. I mean, I know what my hot sauce tastes like, but I'm gonna put it right there.
You're just gonna do a dab. It's really it's like really fruity. I could eat these all day.
Yeah, this one's delicious.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, did you spit it out?
No.
No. We just grab paper towels so we can wipe our hands.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It tastes kind of
that's the thing,
fruity.
too. See,
Yeah,
I wear,
very
you guys
fruity,
have
that's what I
glasses.
said.
I wear contacts.
I can't wear
I have to
contacts.
be really careful. Yeah.
I work in construction, so if I get dust in my eye and contacts, it just does not work well. So
Right.
Okay. That was good. I'm gonna eat this a little
Yeah,
bit.
so I have to be careful. I can't get this stuff on my hands.
Didn't you just like lick it off your hand?
Yeah, but it stays on there. So it's kind of weird, man. I can eat like hot sauce in the morning, and late
I
at
can
night
too.
when I take my contacts out, I can still feel it, and it gets in my eye, and it's pretty bad.
yeah, that does not sound like a fun time.
Yeah, this is so fruity.
I love it. It's delicious.
The only thing that I can like pick out is like the lemon juice. That's good.
Yeah, that one's
They're
really
good, people. Okay, pygmy rattlesnake.
Okay, all right, I got it too.
It's like a really, really cool like purple color.
It goes along with the pygmy, doesn't it? Pygmy
Yeah,
rattlesnakes
I
are-
thought so. All right. This isn't hot, but it tastes good. Yeah, I think the other one was hotter than this.
Yeah, I found the first one was a little
really
hotter than this.
Yeah,
But they're good.
Tell me that.
It's good though.
Yeah, they're both really
This
good.
one's got the pygmies actually got chocolate cherries and red wine in it. So
Yeah, I can kind of pick some of that up.
It's like the berryishness
Yeah.
kind of thing.
right.
Yeah, no, I like that.
They're both really good.
Yeah, so that one was a 5 out of 10. The other one was a 3 out of 10.
Yeah.
Okay, let's extra sauce these ones because it's the green sauce, y'all.
Yeah, our Mexican friend makes a green sauce, and it's like the best sauce. that
And
we've
she
ever had.
like feeds all of us like poor white people.
So wait, let me ask you before you try this. You said your friend makes some, and
Yeah.
so what if you like this better than hers? Then what?
Ooh.
Then I'm never letting her watch this episode. Okay. Cottonmouth venom sauce.
Yep.
I just made these real messy.
I'm excited for the green
I'm
sauce. If it's
so
anything like her sauce, or if it's gonna melt my face, it's one of the two. Oh yeah.
It's good.
Oh yeah.
It's so good. Okay. Does it beat Myrna's? I think Myrna's is better.
I think it's a tie.
They're real close.
Yeah.
Maybe we should go to Myrna's for dinner again. Double check.
Yeah. Myrna, we need to try your green sauce for science.
It's always for science. Always for science.
That was really good though.
Yeah.
That one was a 6 out of 10.
That one's really good.
That one was good. Are we gonna fight over these bottles?
Probably. We're just gonna have to order another. Okay, somebody's gonna have to order another set.
Steve, we need to order some hot sauce. Okay, what's this one? This is the Canebrake Rattlesnake, Chipotle, and Blood Orange.
That just also sounds delicious.
They all sound so good.
Aren't these all handcrafted too? Like you handmade all these sauces?
I worked along with a professional chef. And so I told him what I wanted, and we worked together on it.
It's really nice and smoky.
Yep.
There's so many more chicken wings downstairs too. By the way, you guys are staying for dinner.
So these bottles are going to be gone tonight, then, huh?
They will be. They will be. My kids have been bugging me to try these. My kids like hot sauce. Well, my oldest does, and my youngest likes to try and pretend she does.
Yeah, I got my kids hooked on it too. They all love the hot sauce, except they're not. They'll try the real hot stuff that I have, but they like.
They haven't built up yet.
Yeah, they like.
They're all delicious so far.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, they're like so good.
Like, because sometimes I get like those hot sauces that it's just like melt your face off and no flavor.
Yeah.
Can't taste anything, but this has got a nice balance.
Yeah, these have like a ton of flavor and like enough heat that you can feel it, but you're not like obsessing over like your face melting off. Because
right.
Like, yes, I want my hot sauce to be hot, but I don't want it to be uncomfortable while I'm trying to eat or unable to finish my food because it's too hot.
I don't want to worry about the hot sauce melting my igloo.
All right. This is the Coral Snake Venom Sauce, Pineapple, Mango, Banana Jerk Sauce.
Yeah, I have a lot of people that marinate their chicken in this one.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Oh, excuse me. Just get some extra sauce on there. All right, ready?
Yep.
This is a hot one. Can really taste the pineapple or mango, maybe.
On this one, the heat really is kind of like a slow burn. The heat kind of ramps up a little bit. You don't think it's hot at first, and then it just starts to kind of ramp up a little bit.
Yeah, it doesn't seem hot at all, but like super fruity.
Mm-hmm.
Really good.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, everybody, go order Steve's hot sauce.
Because it's delicious.
It's so good. Like,
I guess I need to get another box of hot sauce mailed out this next week, huh?
Yeah, it's all gonna be gone.
Let's just become Canadian retailers.
That sounds good. Hey, I'm all for it. Let's do it.
I'm down.
Me too.
We could do it. I'll tell you about it after we're recording because I don't want to spoil other people's plans.
Yeah.
But I know that there was someone that was interested in their hot sauce pending our review. So We will definitely be passing on a good review.
Oh yeah,
Nice.
they're super. Yes, that's really good.
These are really, really good.
Nice.
I
Like-
could feel the heat coming off that last
Yeah,
one. picking up.
my lips feel a little warm at the
Yeah.
moment.
So I remember off of another podcast that you're on, I think it was with THP, that Venom and hot sauce kind of work in a similar fashion. So that was kind of the inspiration for the sauces.
Yep. Yeah. It's kind of like they. I guess I could say it like this, almost like an endorphin release, I guess.
Mhm.
And you know, it just has that effect on the body. And hot sauce can kind of make your heart race sometimes. But really, you know, I've seen some scientific research, I guess, on hot sauce and how healthy it could actually be, and with it, you know, not just with the endorphins, but it can actually. I've heard of people because it kind of hits some of the same pain receptors as like people with migraines, and I've had migraines before, and so I've read that you can actually if you eat hot sauce throughout the day, it can hit those pain receptors, and so your body kind of gets used to those pain receptors, and so the migraines either cut out completely or aren't as bad. And so I've seen different research on that kind of thing. So there's a lot of health benefits with the hot sauce, and the same thing like with the Venom. You know, they're even using Venom now. This is a lot of something else that people don't know. They're using Venom now to cure cancer, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and help stroke victims.
I think diabetes as well.
I believe there's some Venom properties in heart attack medication too.
Yeah, because blood thinning. I think.
Yeah, it messes with it can it's technically it's not blood thinning, but it messes with the clotting factor, so your blood doesn't clot. And so that, you know, that's some of the hemotoxic properties of the Venom and stuff like that. So there's a lot of.
I'm glad that there's medical uses for it, and it's used in treating such prevalent diseases. Like, you know, I just lost my mother-in-law to cancer. You know, if we can continue like research with Venom and stuff like that, and it could at one point completely cure it, why not? You know, it's naturally occurring. It comes from nature. Like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
seems
exactly.
better than half the other stuff.
Yeah, and I'm sorry about your family member. Sorry to hear about that.
That's life. That's life.
Yeah.
It happens,
But,
unfortunately.
you know, yeah, a lot of times when people call me and they tell me they killed a snake, or they send me a picture of the dead snake they want it identified, and I tell them, look, you know, that snake could have saved somebody's life one day. You don't know. You know, the snake you killed today could have saved somebody's life tomorrow. So it's not. I mean, you know, of course, you know, they eat rats and mice also. I think there was a research done in 2013, I believe, where they tracked certain canebrake rattlesnakes in an area, found out they were stopping the spread of Lyme disease in that area.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize a huge ecological factor that these animals play. They just think, my family's in danger, I got to kill this animal.
Right. Yeah, and that. Every time I go out to get a snake from a person's house or business, I always spend time educating that person. And I know they completely freak out over snakes, you know what I mean? And that's why I take it off their property. And, you know, just like, I don't know if you guys noticed or saw the post that I did several weeks ago. A lady called me about a canebrake at her house, and I went and got it, and it was actually gravid and had 15 babies, I think it was 15.
Wow.
And, you know, I don't keep everything I rescue from somebody's house. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But because I do educational presentations, I do hold some back. But with the rattlesnakes, I can't go let 15 rattlesnake babies go on somebody's property. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but I don't keep everything. But then again, every time I go out to somebody's house, I always educate those people on the snakes. I always teach them about snakes, the benefits of them. The good things to have, you know, the good reasons to have them around. And because a lot of people just don't know, like you mentioned, you know, some people think, well, my kids are in danger. Well, if you educate your kids, I've educated my kids since they were born, you know, so my kids know. They know, well, I mean, my kids know more than most kids about snakes. but they also they're educated. They have that knowledge. You know, we were going back. I think you said it several times. Knowledge is power. You know, and so if you give people that knowledge, then they're good. They're able to use that wisely. You know, and they're not going to make rash decisions. And you know, and that's one big thing we do is we eliminate fear through education. That's one of our mottos at Steve Snaketuary. And we want to eliminate that fear because we don't want people living in fear. There's no reason to live your life in fear. And so if I can educate you and I can give you the reasons why this is beneficial, why this is helping you, why this is not only beneficial for the environment, but beneficial for you also, then, you know, then you don't, that fear is lowered. You know what I mean? If you're completely terrified of snakes and you come to one of my presentations, and I can hold that snake out and say, okay, look, I'm going to hold the head way over here, and you just pet the tail. And then somebody that's deathly afraid of snakes, when they actually touch that snake, they're taking that small step to get over that fear of snakes. And I think that they can take that knowledge and take that experience in any other area of their life. Maybe they've got a fear of talking to a family member about something important. Or maybe they got fear in their business. Maybe they have to give a business presentation. They're deathly afraid of that. But if they come to my presentation and I can take that snake and get them to take that small step to get over that fear, they can use that experience in other areas of their life too. So that's something that's real important to us.
Yep, for sure.
We have a motto too, except don't apply it to venomous snakes.
It's grab life by the hemipenes, but definitely don't do that with venomous snakes.
It was inspired by an American alligator.
Yep. Yeah, one of the
animal educators.
Yeah, one of the animal educators from Saskatchewan brought Littlefoot the American alligator to WCRE, which is the biggest expo we have here in Alberta last year.
Yeah.
So she brought Littlefoot, and we all got to do our photo ops with him for donations to their rescue. And one of the girls that came from BC, she works on the British Columbia Reptile Club board. She got pictures with him too, and she came up with this like hilarious caption like "Grab life by the hemipenes." I was like, I need that.
Because he's really prolific and gives you a handful of hemipenes.
Yeah, and like you're told to like hold his junk. They're like, put this hand here and put this hand here. If you feel the bulges, your hand's in the right spot. And it's like, all right.
He likes to show off. You know he's male.
Yep. Yeah, actually, that's the alligator in my profile picture.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, that was such a cool experience because, you know, we're not allowed to keep stuff like that here in Alberta. So unless I'm going to the zoo, I'm not seeing it. But to have that actual hands-on experience was something wild. Like, I got to hold an alligator. Like, that is so cool. And, like, what, 6 feet?
Yeah.
Yeah, like, that's a lot of power in your hands. Right. When people make me mad, I tell them I'll feed them to the alligator.
I've actually gotten, because a lot of people know, even I got 2 calls from animal control, but I've had several people call me for alligators because they know I deal with snakes. And that's a whole completely different ball game here. Even just because, you know, even in Louisiana, the alligators are so prevalent here. We have them a lot, but it's actually illegal to have them, to catch them. Or, I mean, you can have tags. I think you can shoot just a couple of them because people eat them here. But there was a dead one on the side of the road. And when I was leaving work one morning, and I wanted it, I was like, well, it's already dead, right? I'm going to go get its stuff. I'll put it on my fireplace and all this stuff. Pretty cool. But I called the guy at one of my contacts at Wildlife and Fisheries, and he told me, he said, don't touch it.
Don't even look at it.
He goes, don't touch it. I said, okay. It's actually illegal to get a dead one. So I thought that was pretty crazy, you know. But I guess it's just because of how big they can get. Maybe they don't want people to get hurt and things like that. So, but
Yeah.
Or mistaking one that they think is dead for a very,
Right.
very in fact alive and pissed off one.
Yeah.
Can you guys
Yeah.
see my dog jumping behind me here?
No.
My dogs came out now. So.
Oh, now I see them. I was like, no, I don't see anything.
With the wildlife here, like if there's a deer that's hit on the side of the road, you're not allowed to.
You can call it into Fish and Wildlife, and they can give you permission to take it, but usually they come out and investigate first before they say yes or no. They're never going to say, oh yeah, just take it.
Yeah, but you're allowed to like take it off the road if it's in the way. But
oh yeah, like if there's a dead, see, it's mostly deer and moose up here, and like moose are so big that like that's dangerous to be on the road. But fuck, I hope you can move that damn thing.
Wrap a chain around it or a ratchet strap and
Yeah,
tug it with your vehicle.
Use the come along to like and off the road. You were saying earlier about how you have to teach your kids to be safe around snakes and stuff like that. But here, not in the town I'm in right now, but the town we just moved from, moose everywhere. They would come into town, and it would be multiple cows that had twins, triplets. We lost Steve again. But there's tons of cow moose with their babies, so extremely protective. And they're right in town eating your garden and everything. So the school would call you in the morning, be like, oh, there was a moose spotted on your street. And so the kids would have to walk a different way to school. So my kids have like mind-blowing moose safety. They ever see a moose in the wild, they're gonna go to the furthest point they can to walk around it, because they're so used to having protective cow moose in town and close proximity to them. I let my dogs out in the morning to go pee, and they chased 3 moose out of my backyard. So, that's a big animal to mess around with, and really dangerous, and absolutely have killed people. More people in Canada have probably died from moose attacks than venomous snake attacks.
Probably.
Well, you said there was only 3 venomous snakes.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, exactly. So
I gotta Google how many people have been killed by moose
in Canada. Good old swamp monkey.
Yeah, and that's one thing I was going to mention too. Is even over in I heard you on one of your other podcast deals that you didn't know where a lot of states were, but you knew where Texas was, and
Florida is too.
It's right next to Texas. So, but in Texas they have different laws than we have, and I'm just really thankful that here where I live, I don't want to say the laws are lax. I mean, we do have rules, but as far as I've had people get me to come out to their deer camp and walk around and try to get snakes, because they hate walking up snakes when they're hunting deer and things like that. And so our laws here are kind of, I hesitate to say it this way, but they're kind of lax in Louisiana. But if I go 20 minutes over into Texas, it's completely different. They have completely different laws as far as getting snakes and things like that. But here, like I said, I've got my permits, and basically I can, you guys were mentioning earlier that you can't keep any native snakes. Mm-hmm. I can keep anything I want, basically. You know what I mean? But again, I do it legally. I've got all my permits and things like that, but I'm just thankful that it's I can get anything I want kind of thing,
Yeah.
Instead of,
Basically, any of the American keepers I talk to are like, why do you live there?
Yeah.
And we have so many amazing, native species. Like, we have yellow ringneck snakes. No.
Yellow-bellied racers.
Yellow-bellied racers. The ringnecks are out east. We have yellow-bellied racers. We have garter snakes. We have a lot of really cool stuff that, nope, can't have it. But we can have all the tiger salamanders we find in our backyard that we want.
That's weird. Is there any reasoning why they don't let you have the stuff?
They just don't want people to
Harvest from the
harvest
wild,
the animals from the wild and profit off it and ruin their environments.
Except for tiger salamanders, wood frogs, and chorus frogs. You are allowed to take those from the wild. You can sell them, you can breed them, you can do whatever you want with them, and I don't understand.
That's
It's
weird.
probably because their populations are pretty high.
Yeah, amphibians do breed like amphibians.
But yeah, a lot of it, from my understanding, is that there's such small populations of these species of animals, snakes in particular in Alberta, that they want to protect them as much as possible.
Well, like the yellow-bellied racer, it's disputed whether we even have it in Alberta because there's only one actual known den, and it's a very, very closely guarded secret amongst biologists. So it's not even like Brandon and I could go out herping and find them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I can understand if there's such a small population and the populations are getting decimated or something like that. I can understand, but I mean, if it's something prevalent like here, what? Go ahead.
We have Western hognose snakes here, and they are illegal for us to keep. One of the most popular snakes in the hobby, we have native and not allowed to keep. I have never seen a live hoggy in my life.
You're not missing much. Westerns are not very bright. I used to keep a couple of them when I lived in Saskatchewan.
Yeah. I mean, is it like here, 90% of the calls I get, and I'm probably exaggerating that number, but 90% of the calls I get are rat snakes. And we have them everywhere. So are like your hognose there? Are they like our rat snakes here? Are they very prevalent? Or are they kind of rare?
There's a small area here in Alberta. There's a larger section in Saskatchewan.
I'd say the
Bull snake?
Nope.
Garter snake?
Thank you. I kept wanting to say thams. The garter snakes, I would say, are the most prevalent, and then either the bull gopher snakes are more common because, I grew up in the city that Brandon currently lives in now, and I'd find garter snakes in my backyard all the time.
Wandering garter snakes.
Wandering garter snakes. All right, we're getting technical. And I could go down to the river and like, here's a snake, here's a snake, here's a snake, here's a snake, and be like, Mom, look. My ex took my daughter fishing for the first time. She was probably like 3 years old. And she ran off into the tall grass and he lost her, and she comes running out with this little noodle about this big. My 3-year-old caught a baby garter snake.
Wow.
No fear. Just came out of the tall grass with it.
Yeah. Well, that's one thing that if I'm on call, if I'm at work or something and I get a snake call, my wife and kids have gone out and gotten the snakes for me. Like there was I can tell you stories all day long about snake calls, but one of them was the city jail, the police department from the city jail called us. They had a snake in the jail, and this was at midnight, and my wife had to go. I was working nights, and my wife had to go, and her and my daughter went, and of course my daughter had to stay in the little lobby area or whatever, but my wife had to go in. Of course, they had all the inmates locked up, but they're all watching her. And she had to go in, and it was a rat snake, and she just walked in and picked it up and walked out with it in her hands, And then there's been calls when like the fire department would call us, and because it's funny because it's like I'm the only one that that deals with the snakes, and so one of the other stations calls us, and she had to go out. The lady had barricaded herself in the room. And none of the other firefighters wanted to get the snake, deal with it. So my wife went, she picked it up, and she's hollering at the lady. She goes, "Okay, I got the snake. You can come out now." She goes, "No, I'm not coming out of my room until you leave." And so she had to leave, and the other police officers and firefighters that were there had to tell the lady, okay, she's gone now, before that lady would even come out. It's funny.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's funny that, I'll take my kids on one of the calls, and, knowing what it is, and all the other firefighters and police officers and everybody are standing around because they don't want to deal with it. And I see it's just a rat snake, and my little kids will run over there and just pick it up in front of everybody, and I do that. I think it's hilarious, but, and I do it for the fun part of it, the just being funny, but it's also, I do it to show people, hey, these aren't that scary. Even kids can deal with them. If you know what it is, going back to that knowledge and that education part of it, if you know what it is, you know what you're dealing with, there's nothing to fear about it. So
yeah.
Well, my partner he ran screaming from a corn snake when we first moved in together. And then over the last little while, it started just the way you explained it earlier. I took out my Doomerals. She won't do a thing. She is fat and lazy,
Yeah.
But I kept control of her head, and I was like, just touch the tail.
Yeah.
It might fart at you. Like, that's the danger you're in, And so he just started by petting her tail. And then we were helping Brandon at his house move some giant freaking enclosures. And Brandon has a massive female boa there. And we just went, here you go. And shoved it in my boyfriend's arms, and he did it. He did it.
Yeah, he did really good too.
He did.
That's
and
awesome.
Cuddles is a big snake. I have a picture of my youngest holding her, and her tail goes from the floor up around my kid's neck, and her head's down at the floor again. It's she's
awesome.
heavy. She's very, very heavy.
She's about a 35-pound boa constrictor.
Yeah, that's a chunky snake, and just here you go. But because I had started making him, touch the tails and stuff like that, he's now purchased his own ball pythons and
Purchased a bunch of rocks.
whatever he needs to not be scared of snakes, Brandon.
I'm still gonna bug him with that.
That's fine. You can bug him all you want. I'm just happy he's no longer running away from corn snakes.
Well, that's awesome.
But, it's just he was so fearful, and it was completely irrational, and it just took patience and education on my part.
You want to know how I introduced snakes to Vanessa?
Here you go.
No, I asked her to come over if she wanted to see my snake. That's not what she expected. I got a big boa constrictor around my neck, and she's like, "Holy shit, you weren't lying."
I did not coerce Tyler that way. I think all I had when Tyler and I got together was the corn snake. No, I had 2 corn snakes and my very first boa ever, who was also my very first rescue ever. So I've had him for around 10 years. So he's my life.
A lot of people don't understand, especially when I'm teaching for kids, is, they go in the pet store and see the snake, and it looks all cute, and it can fit in the palm of your hand kind of thing. And they're like, oh, that's cute. And they don't understand, well, okay, this snake's going to get 5-6 feet long. You're going to have to start feeding it rats. It can live over 20 years. And I'll tell the kids, I'll say, hey, I'll point to what I'm going to say, hey, how old are you? My dogs aren't making too much noise, are they?
He can't even hear him. I just saw him that once.
I'll point to one of the kids. I'm like, okay, how old are you? Well, I'm 6. How old are you? 7. Oh, I'm 8. Well, do you want to have this snake when you're almost 30 years old? And they don't think about that,
No.
Yeah.
And then, or the snake gets out of its cute phase, it starts growing, and they're like, oh, it's too much for me. And, and then I end up getting the call, hey, we've got the snake. We can't take care of it anymore. Can you take it in? Yeah, I'll definitely take it in. Plenty of room.
That's actually why my Doomerals got surrendered to the rescue that I got her from. She just became too much snake for them. She wasn't aggressive or anything like that. They just weren't comfortable handling a snake with that much body. So we actually got a juvenile male as well, and now we can actually show people the visual difference. Like, this is a baby, this is an adult, and so like I would like to be able to bring them to expos and stuff like that. Like when we go with the podcast, and just be like, here's my two animals on display. This is tiny. This is giant.
Right. Yeah. When people ask me about getting snakes, I tell them snakes spend a lot more time being adults and full grown than they do being hatchlings and juveniles. So that's something you got to be prepared for. And they live a long time if you take care of them right. Because if you're not going to take care of them right, they sometimes
they're going to be dead in 3 years.
Yep.
And it's you got to be prepared depending on the species for having a big 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, even bigger snake, depending on what you're getting.
Yeah, 20 plus foot.
No thanks.
Yeah, we're not allowed those here.
I wouldn't want one anyway.
I couldn't do a berm or a retic myself. I know I would be too uncomfortable doing that. Even if I got it as a baby and grew with it, I think a giant snake is beyond what I'm comfortable with, and I like to stay in my comfort zone.
Yeah. Well, that was one thing too. We had a Repticons come. I don't want to get into too much of that, but Repticon came this last year. Repticon came. A lady went and she told one of the vendors that she wanted a little ball python. He said, "Well, I got the perfect snake for you." Well, she ended up calling me because the snake wouldn't eat. It wasn't acting right. It was striking at her a whole bunch. And she said, I can't deal with it. Can you try to tame it down, and can you get it to eat for me and things like that? I said, sure, I'll take it in and I'll see what I can do. Well, I go over there, and this dude has sold her a baby retic as a ball python, told her it was a ball python. And I said, do you know what this is? She goes, no. I said, this is a reticulated python. I said, do you know how big it's going to get? She goes, no, I mean, it's a baby. She goes, no. I said, this thing's going to get over 20 feet. And she goes, what? And so I had to sit here. I sat there forever educating her about it. I think I was there over an hour just talking to her about it. And she said, well, it's just striking too much. And I told her about I had to sit there and explain all this to her. And she said, well, I don't want to deal with it. So I've now retail ball. So I ended up giving her one of my ball pythons just to be nice about it, So she got what she wanted, and now I've got another.
It's lagging.
It's lagging hard.
Cody from KTA Constrictor said, at least call them painted rocks, Brandon. Well, I can call them 50 Shades of Brown rocks.
What about albinos? They're white and yellow.
50 Shades of Ball Python.
We lost you for a little bit there.
Yeah, you're lagging hard. Yeah, we missed that whole section that you're talking about.
Yeah, so you got to her house.
You didn't hear about the retic story?
We heard some of it.
We heard part of the retic story. We heard up until you told her that it was going to be over 20 feet long, and then we lost you.
So she didn't want to deal with it because it was striking at her a whole bunch. So I took it and I said, I'll work with it, see what I could do. She just didn't want it back after that point. So I was just being nice. So I got one of my ball pythons and I said, well, that's what you originally wanted. So here, I'll give you this ball python and I'll take your retic. So now I've got another retic and she got what she wanted. So I guess it all worked out.
Yeah, it's something more manageable for most people anyway.
Yeah, exactly. And if it's something that they can feel comfortable with and still have passion for, them, why not?
Yeah. Right. And who the hell sold her a retic telling her it was ball python?
Yeah.
The guy's an asshole.
That was terrible. I don't know. Maybe the guy just wanted the money. I honestly don't know. I think that was So
You never know. I've heard some like horror stories from like expos down in the States. I would like to think we keep a pretty tight ship here. You don't hear about like as crazy as stuff happening up here at our expos.
Well, not that we hear of anyway.
Well, we don't have people just like grabbing animals off tables and walking off.
We've had that at the last expo.
Never mind, I know nothing.
what?
Who did that?
I don't know. One of the vendors, he had a bunch of random stuff, and it was just him working his table. So he had 3 tables, and he was with a customer, and he believes the person that bought something, they were eyeing an animal up, and they didn't purchase it, but they purchased something that was cheaper, and then they walked off with that animal.
Oh my goodness.
He was like, yeah, if you see this person that looks like this, they took an animal. We never seen them, but they probably took off right away. So it's very unfortunate because it was like a $500 animal or something.
Oh yeah, someone did that to. I want to see. Someone took like 2 bearded dragons off the Phantom Dragons table. Josh, Dovenberger. Yeah, someone just took like 2 beardies off his table, and him and his partner breed very, very high-end bearded dragons. Like, if you're gonna get a bearded dragon, you probably want it from these people. And someone just went, whoop, and it was someone they knew.
Wow,
What?
that's unfortunate.
Yeah, they got called out hardcore on Facebook.
Wow.
That's crazy. That's why if I ever sell animals at an expo, I'm gonna have locked displays, so it's hard to walk away with.
Like that one.
You can walk away with that.
You can walk away with that,
fast.
but that's heavy and awkward. That thing is awkward as hell.
You're not gonna be able to hide that.
And if you're walking out of that with my like several $1,000s worth of chauffeurs, I'm gonna light you on fire at the expo with witnesses.
Oh, that's messed up. You know, I that's just, why would you even take that chance? Not, you know, let alone stealing something, but you know the herp community is vicious, and
We're taking.
you know they're gonna tear you up. I don't understand why you would even take that chance. You know you're gonna be ostracized from the herp community. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just not worth it.
Actually, that ostracized comment fits in nice with this comment, since most of us know who this is in reference to.
At least in Western Canada.
Let's read it to me, because part of my phone's cut in the bottom part.
Worst I've heard of was a couple vendors who had brought illegal species to shows, accidentally or otherwise.
Which I've had to deal with that, and that vendor brought illegal animals from his province. They were illegal there to our province too, so they were illegal in both places.
Yeah, and wasn't he told to remove them and then put them back on his table?
Yeah, and then tried to sell them as another species.
Yeah, and then he was blacklisted from basically every show in Alberta, and he continued to throw fits, and I think he's just blacklisted from most shows in Canada now.
Yeah, Cody said, I know that I won't be vending until I have locking displays. I can't take that risk. I don't blame anybody that doesn't want to take that risk, because they spend a lot of time and money on these animals, and I would want to get them stolen.
Well, what is it that Ty puts on his displays? Doesn't he just throw like big, huge netting over everything?
Ty from JJ. Yeah.
Oh, it's J&J. Okay, yeah. They just I think it's like game bird netting. I think that's what it is. Something similar to that, and they just throw it over their whole table. So, like, you really gotta fidget with it if you're gonna grab an animal,
Yeah,
right?
you can't grab it from the front side because it's all taped down.
Yeah. So they can only open it from their side, but if you're messing around with that, someone's definitely gonna notice right away. So, you know,
a lot of people usually just have like those ARS displays where they all lock together, so it's really hard to get in there unless you have keys. And
that's an ARS. I noticed the label and I was like, ooh, I have ARS fancy stuff.
Yeah, all the stuff that big fancy displays from the States cost an arm and a leg up here because of the conversion and shipping.
Oh, I can imagine.
Oh yeah, it's terrible right now to getting stuff from the States. It costs twice as much, like our podcasting hosting fees cost twice as much as it does in the States.
Wow.
And we have to pay for everything in American dollars, so like by the time conversion hits us, Me and Brandon will text each other. Who's paying for this month? Who's left for it? The time even just due.
Is the conversion rate worse for you then from Canadian dollars to American dollars?
Yeah, we pay twice as much, basically.
It's like 1.5 times the American dollar right now or something ridiculous like that.
It's gotten better, but not much.
I'll buy things from America still. I won't buy anything in Europe.
One United States dollar is $1.34 Canadian.
Oh, wow. Wow.
So good in Canada. Free health care. So good.
And then so I'm going to be like everybody else that asks you, why are you still living there? Why don't you just move to the States?
Because the States is crazy.
You're right.
And then one Canadian dollar equals to 75 cents in the U.S.
Dude.
So good.
It's brutal.
So good.
Yeah.
I think that's actually better than what we've been paying lately.
It's gotten somewhat better. By like $1.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, we appreciate you coming on. We've actually learned a lot about snake bite treatments and the response. And
different types of venom, medical uses for them, a little bit of everything.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate it. Yeah, it's been awesome. It's been a pleasure. I really appreciate the opportunity you guys gave me to let me come on.
We're always about education, and this is something that, well, at least in Western Canada, we don't really get a whole lot of knowledge on. So as long as we can bring any sort of information to our audience, it's fantastic. Yeah,
absolutely. Where can everyone find you online, Steve?
Well, anybody can find me. You can go to my website at snaketuary.com. I'm on YouTube. You can just type in Snaketuary on YouTube. I'm on Instagram at Steve's_Snaketuary. I'm on LinkedIn. I will say one thing. I'm on TikTok also.
I'm on TikTok too. I just started. I should tag you in my a hot sauce video I just did.
I want to say one thing about Facebook. I've got to kind of give a little spiel about Facebook. When Facebook first started, I started the Snaketuary page. I had some issues. They asked me to send in all of my personal information. They wanted my social security card, birth certificate.
No.
So I didn't do it. And so they suspended my personal account. Okay. Well, that was tied in with my business account. So the old Snaketuary page is still out there, but I can't log into it. I cannot get into it to make changes. So I had to create a new page. The new page is Steve's Snaketuary. So the new Facebook, the new and improved Facebook is Steve Snaketuary. And I have to stress that because I'm actually still getting emails that people are liking the old page.
It's probably me.
So if you guys know any hackers, I need a hacker to get in there to combine those accounts. So, but yeah, the new Facebook is Steve Snaketuary. But like I said, I'm on TikTok, I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, I'm everywhere. So, but if all of that stuff, you can just go to snaketuary.com. That's my website, and all the links are there on there. But anybody can email me at info@snaketuary.com. And you can actually go to my website, and you've got phone number. My phone number is listed on the website. So if people want to call me and text me, that's cool. Just realize I work weird hours being a firefighter and advanced EMT. So you can call me and text me 24/7, but just keep that in mind that I do work weird hours, and I need some kind of sleep sometime in there. So
yeah.
So,
awesome.
But, yeah. I'm available. I want to make seriously though, I do want to make myself available for everybody. If anybody's got any questions or concerns, you can always, if you get my phone number off the website, you can take a picture of a snake and send it to me. You guys being in Canada, if anybody in Canada texts me or whatever, I may or may not be familiar with your snakes. So it may take me a minute to figure out what it is, but I seriously though, I do want to make sure that I am available for everybody. If anybody's got any questions or concerns, I do want to be available. So.
Absolutely.
And go to his website and buy his hot sauce because it's delicious.
Hot sauce is on the website. Yeah. It is so amazing.
They're all delicious. I'm not even sure if I could pick a favorite.
I think the copperhead is my favorite.
And I guess the next batch that I send to you guys, I'll have to send the new one, the limited edition. This is the anti-venom.
Yeah,
This is actually an 11 out of 10. So it's a lot hotter than the other ones.
Yeah, we will we'll definitely have to do another live with you when we try that one.
Oh, absolutely. And do another episode with out a taste test and learn more about other snakes too.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's always lots to learn.
Definitely.
Awesome. Well, thank you to our Patreon supporters, I suppose is our next thing, isn't it?
Yes.
Thank you, Kayla Mans, Gwendolyn Marie, Ophidians by Design, and
Superior Serpents.
Superior Serpents, those ones. I've said it so many times that I forgot it now. Yeah, and where can we find us, Brandon?
You can find us on Facebook and Instagram and YouTube, obviously, because we're on YouTube. And
All your favorite podcasting apps.
yeah, we're everywhere. If you listen to a podcast, we're probably there. And
We're newly on Amazon Music. What,
Yeah.
Was it Amazon Music?
Yes.
Yeah, Amazon Music.
So we're on a bunch of different platforms for the podcast. And you can email us at chp@gmail.com.
That is not our email.
Okay.
It's chp.podcast@gmail.com.
There we go. That's that.
Don't
listen to what I said.
Awesome.
And don't forget to grab Life by the Hemipenes as long as it's not venomous.
Yeah, don't grab venomous hemipenes.
Then you call me.
Right.
Yes. Then call Steve. Well, thanks for tuning in, everybody.
Thank you.